Okay, I think that's good enough. Hello. It's me, it's Ben Repaints. I'm Ben Repaints. I'm a little frog boy. Frogman, thank you. And, still working on trying to get the setup just right for the painting studio. But, hi. I'm gonna go ahead and, get started in a moment. My plan right now is to finish up my second Death Shroud bodyguard, who I was working on yesterday, and who I think is turning out, pretty darn stellar, if you ask me. Looks really darn good. I'm gonna go ahead and paint... Uh-oh, is this starting to come loose? Gonna go ahead and paint the horns on him, and the bones, and the spikes, and then work on the fog that's coming out, and the little bugs. And that shouldn't take too long. That part is very straightforward, but after I finish him, I'm going to go ahead and get to work on the last lad, who is like the sergeant or the leader or whatever you want to call him. So, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get started on that in just a minute. Now, I'm curious. I usually paint without my glasses on because painting with my glasses on is not very good. I'm nearsighted and my glasses compensate for that. So whenever I try and, focus in on what I'm doing, the glasses end up kind of getting in the way and prevent me from really seeing the fine details. So I'm going to try today to not do that and to keep the glasses on and see if I'm still able to get as, detailed a paint job on the Mini, even though I'm not going to be holding it as close to my face. Because being nearsighted has meant that when I do take the glasses off, that's basically what I have to do, is I've got to hold the Mini inches away from my face to make out what little details I'm doing. And generally that works out real nice. But at the same time, it's made it difficult for me to do some other things, like see chat, and actually look at some of the things I'm trying to look at. So today, I'm just going to go ahead and go for gusto, keep my glasses on, and we'll see how this works out. Though I can tell you right now, 2 seconds in, I'm already having a bit of a struggle because I can feel my eyes trying to focus in on the details, but also fight the glasses, which are trying to give me a less than stellar representation of what's going on because the prescription is now a little old. But that's okay. Other than that, had a pretty okay day. Just continued moving along with my studies. Found out how scripts work, which is kind of cool in various operating systems, because that is not something that I've ever studied before. Realized as I was rearranging things at my workstation, at my desk, at my studio, whatever you want to call it, that the pipes right above me are part of the heating to the house. So I have an incredible source of warmth, 3 feet above my head. And that definitely explains why, even though down here it is a little cooler than the rest of the house, over in this corner I feel great. Okay, what do I got going on here? Something else that I'm trying to work on, because I'm typically really bad about it, is rushing through the process, especially with a base coat, because what I've noticed happens is when I try and rush through my brush strokes and get the Mini painted very quickly, is that the paint has a harder time getting good, even coverage on the surfaces I'm trying to apply the paint to. So while it clearly makes things happen a lot faster, it also means I've got to go back and repaint it many, many times because I wasn't able to get as good a clear coat on it. So this whole moving a little slower, being a little more deliberate, is definitely a thing I'm trying to do, specifically to make sure that my painting is a lot more efficient. Where's my Discord at? There's my Discord. Let's see, did that work? It did not. So what's going to happen is, let's see, yeah, I am streaming. I'm going to go ahead and throw this up in one of the other Discords that I'm a part of. Boop. There we go. Okay, perfect. Hopefully the music isn't coming through too loud. I have decided that I didn't like having to fight with my microphone sensitivity to not get a double copy of the music. So I've taken to wearing headphones again. And it means that while it sounds great in my head, I have no idea what the volume's like outside. But I mean, I think it sounds okay. I also need to start checking to see if I'm getting copyright struck for these two audio files that I downloaded and I've been using, because one of them is like a remix of some Sonic the Hedgehog music for a more chill vibe, and the other is a bunch of what I saw on YouTube was considered royalty-free, like copyright-free, fair use, chill and vibe music for streaming. So I suppose I'll find out whether or not the algorithm that they have manages to catch it. And if they do, oh well, back to the drawing board in terms of finding music that I can play. Though I also think I'm a small enough content creator by quite a margin, or personality on YouTube, that no one is actively going to search me out and find out that I've used their music. Okay. There we go. So I feel like, honestly, I want to be kind of lazy with the bone fragments that are sticking out and jutting out of this guy. The way that they do it on the Games Workshop site is really nice, because it starts with more of a clear bone look to it, with more of a clear bone color. But as it gets further out, then the material obviously gets dirtier as it's exposed to the elements. And so it kind of has this smoggy gray to black transition as you get closer to the tip. And normally I think of doing the opposite, that it's darker as it's emerging from the skin, because it's fleshier, it's new, and as you go further out it starts cleaning itself as it gets exposed to the elements. But apparently that's not the case, and so I should probably be doing, you know, these jutting bone bits a little bit differently. And so that's what I'm going to try and do with this guy, or I was going to try and do with this guy, but I'm getting kind of antsy to be done with him, so I think I'm just going to throw some wash on him and let that be that. I mean, I can already tell he's going to need a second coat of this buff, because in some places it's going on decent and thick, and in other places it's most clearly not. And so we're getting a lot of this original undercoat kind of peeking back out. And that's not good. Though, to be honest, it actually isn't doing that bad with this second coat. Let's see. There we go. And this should provide a nice little... Oh, I forgot one. This should provide a nice little pop of color coming off of his head. And some nice contrast to the amount of green that he's got on him. Because unfortunately, Games Workshop does a tremendous job giving you an easy to paint character. You know what I mean? Like, he's got a ton of details on him, don't get me wrong, but a lot of the details could be relatively obscured by just putting a single green coat on him. And then just kind of hitting him with a wash, because while they are nice, they're unimportant to reading the whole model. And I think that's something that Games Workshop does that kind of gets overlooked when people talk about them and their modeling, is that while they do have a lot of greeblies generally, if they're ones that if you weren't to paint them, doesn't matter a whole lot. But if you were to paint them, it makes the Mini go from being like a solid paint job and one that's perfectly serviceable to being like a small piece of display art. You know what I mean? And in the case of like a Space Marine, for example, I really dig that they're like completely festooned with just relics and artifacts and weird shit, because it kind of tells its own story, and I think that's really neat. Okay, there we go. So now I think the horns are pretty much done, except for the ones on his left pauldron. But thankfully, this is generally one of the easiest steps. At least for me. Because it's just going to a really nice bright color. Okay. There we go. Go ahead and hit a lot of that. And that should be decent. Oh, there's a little bit of... And see, kind of the neat thing about this is that if I wanted to leave some of these streaks in here, it would work, because the bones are not uniformly healthy. You know what I mean? So them having odd little streaks of, like, darker spots in them. Ow, I really rolled my elbow bad on a nerve. Definitely makes them look okay. So the next thing I kind of want to do with it is I want to mix some of this in with some of the light brown that I've put on here. And honestly, some of this black. And create kind of this kludgy gray color. And just ever so gently mix that in away from the base of the bone. And it looks like it's happening, because I definitely didn't just stop myself. But only ever so slightly. I don't want it to be too heavy-handed on here. But what it'll do is it'll give the impression that the jutting bones are getting dirtier as they're getting away from, you know, the roots that they emerged from, or whatever you want to call it. Which is both kind of gross and definitely adds some visual interest to these guys. But we'll see if it looks good or not. Okay, a little bit more of the khaki mixed in with the dark brown, or the light brown mixed in with the black. And we're also going to water this down a bit, because I don't need a whole lot of it on the brush. And I already forgot what I was doing. Which one was I working on? I think it was this one. And see, that's already drying real nice. If you really look at it, if you can see it even on the screen, because everything's so washed out due to the light, it's doing a really good job of conveying grime. And that's kind of what I'm going for. And hopefully when it dries, when the water kind of evaporates off it, I'm not leaving any coffee staining in any major way. And so instead, it just kind of looks like I'm getting this general slow addition of dirt and grime. But I suppose we'll see when I'm all done, because I've never done this before. At least from a distance, it looks like it's going on okay. That might be a little bit too constant, or too diluted, or too concentrated, not diluted. I want it to be more diluted. I'd like for this to have minimal coffee staining. And something I think I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of pre-roll. I really hate the pre-roll ads. And I feel like they're an immediate turn-off that makes me not want to watch. And so I can't imagine that they're super enticing to walk into when you're trying to view the channel. So I think I'm going to have to just roll some mid-roll ads. And we're just going to have to deal with that, I suppose. Because at least by then you can be like, okay, yeah, I see what Ben Repaints is getting himself up to. I can go now. Or not, who knows? Let's see, yeah, we're going to hit that. Oh, I'm too high. Hey, Grizhood, how's it going? How's your day been? I've got a new camera set up yet again. I'm still trying to figure out how I want this to be all set up in my little painting booth. And so there's a good chance that the model might wander a little bit. Okay. Things are going pretty okay. I might have mentioned it before, I don't recall, but currently I'm unemployed in training, and I finally decided to apply for unemployment. And everything looked like it went through okay until they told me I had a notification about some correspondence I needed to fill out. And it's medical stuff. They just need me to get in contact with a medical professional so that they can fill out some form to show that I had like a good medical excuse for leaving. And so I sent that back out, and I got a little bit more training done with my certification stuff I'm working on. Thank you, I appreciate it. I don't want to say I'm embarrassed going on unemployment, because I'm really not, but I'd really hope that I can be employed again and not need to use the unemployment money. Like, not have to rely on it for too long. And honestly, my big goal is to use it to help pay my mortgage a little bit, because that's going to get expensive if I don't have employment. And see, already you can see that the horns are getting kind of gross look. It's there for people who need it, and if you need it, use it. That's absolutely true, and that's why I applied. But yeah, you can see that the horns are getting just mildly increasingly kludgy, and that's exactly what I want. I want them to look like, you know, they're getting dirtier. And I can add just a little bit more black, a little bit more brown, and water it back down. And once I do that, hopefully it'll be a little darker, and then I can put it a little further up on these guys, on the horns, and that will make the horns even darker near the top. But yeah, things are going pretty okay. I have kind of a steep hill to climb when it comes to doing the IT certification I'm working on, because even though I've always kind of dabbled with computers, I've never had any real, you know, formal training on them. Everything's been kind of self-taught clumsily as the need has arisen. So, while I'm taking these certification classes to get an A+ certification through CompTIA, I'm learning like command line stuff, and I'm learning about scripts. And these are all words that I've heard a lot of just because of the people I hang out with and the streamers that interest me. But I've had no practical use of this stuff ever. And so I feel like someone's very rapidly teaching me a new language. And if I don't learn it in 2 weeks, I'm going to be in trouble. But it's been absolutely fascinating kind of learning about the guts of the computer and of networking and how all that stuff actually works. And it really demystifies a lot of it, and I think that's super cool. And I hope it eventually leads to a better job. Okay, so I took an A+ certification class in high school, but you never got the certification. Very neat. I took a Visual Basic class in like my sophomore year of high school, when I was 15, 16. And I remember liking it a lot. I remember thinking it was really neat, but I never pursued anything beyond that because I kept hearing that you need to be good at math to be good at like computer stuff. You took Visual Basic too? Yeah, that was the only one I think they offered at the school I went to. And it was stupid easy. Like, I think I had one day where things didn't line up right, and I spent all day headbutting the desk trying to figure out what the problem was with my coding. But beyond that, that was one of the most brain dead classes I've ever taken. And I don't know. I had a lot of fun with it, and I wish I had gone further with it, but I became too intimidated with the idea that I was going to need to be really good at math to do better and to go further in like computer stuff, because math has always been my weakest subject because I'm lazy and I generally rush through things if I'm not interested. Well, I did. I'm a lot better about it now. But now that I'm going through this A+ certification stuff, I'm really wishing that I, had stuck with it. I'd be making a heck of a lot more money than I did as a school teacher. Though, maybe it just wasn't my time yet. I wasn't ready to do these kind of certifications and to get into networking. And now that I'm a little older, and I have a little bit more patience and a little bit more worldliness, it is now the perfect time for me to get into networking and IT. So who knows? All I know is that the horns turned out a whole lot better than I thought they were going to. And I'm pretty jazzed about that. There's a lot more resources now to teach your stuff than there used to be. Yeah, that's another huge point of it. I'm using Udemy's website. I honestly had some concerns about Udemy because it seems like they have these huge sales every 2 seconds. And back when I first started looking at them, it was like right around the holidays. So I figured that's when their sale was. And I was like, oh my goodness, I managed to get in there right as the sale happened. So I got a really good deal on all these courses. But every time I go back there to continue taking classes, they've got another sale and another sale and another sale. And it's all for the same amount. So it's like, maybe I didn't get a good deal. Maybe that's just their business model. But honestly, I don't care. I got the classes that I need to get educated for the certification courses. So it is what it is. But yeah, they've got this one guy, Jason Dion from Dion Academy, and he's been the one he's got a whole bunch of different courses online. He's got A+ certification, he's got network, he's got security, he's got ITIL, he's got CCNA, he's got Linux. And so I've been following his stuff. And now that I've done a little more digging, I found out that some of his stuff is like really outdated. And he tends to go into a whole lot more detail than he needs to. Why did I just do that? His horns aren't going to be ready for a dry brushing anytime soon. Oh well. Okay, so the next thing is going to be the smoke, which actually there isn't a whole lot on this guy. I'm going to go back and I'm going to dry brush the horns a little bit to bring some of the brightness back into them. But that'll be later. What I'm going to do right now is I think the gradient on the horns look cool. Hey Kieran, how's it going? I tried to match the Games Workshop horns, which, like I said, they've got kind of the lighter root to them, and then they've got, like, they darken as they get out, as they, like, bulge out more, so that's where I'm going with that. But, let's see. No, I need a gray. I don't have a gray out. And, we're going to go ahead and make the smog gray, and then we're going to futz it up with some washes. Recovering from takeout. That sounds like a good idea. That's right, it's probably a lot later where you are. I'm doing pretty okay. I'm currently in between jobs, which I think I've mentioned on Doig Swift's stream a few times, but I had to leave the teaching profession because of some health-related issues, which sucked because I need to get paid. I've got a mortgage. But the good news is that it's fine. It all boiled down to the job just causing me so much stress that it was affecting my health to the point where I couldn't go to work anymore. And so I'm in a whole lot better a mental space and a physical space now that I'm not teaching. And I'm also pursuing a career in IT. So I'm taking a bunch of training courses online to get certified. And actually, last week I passed my first one. And I'm taking the second part of it probably next week when I finish going through these courses. And that way I can be A+ certified. And then I'm going to hopefully get an entry-level job in IT somewhere. And then I can work my way up to network admin, because I'll continue taking my courses and get, like, my CCNA. And then I can make more money than I could ever dream of making as a teacher. And then I can just throw, like, hundreds of dollars at all my favorite people. Because that's my end goal. I just want to be able to help everyone else have a ton of money and be, like, financially secure. And, you know, buy more Warhammers. But that's a whole nother story. But yeah, so everything is actually going pretty okay. I'm in a better headspace than I've been in years. Everything's going pretty okay. I'm getting to see a whole lot more Doigen Swift since I'm waking up and actually being able to watch them. How are things going for you? How are things going for you? Because I saw you over in Lady V's stream as she started playing Baldur's Gate. And I'm just not going to be able to watch that, because I've realized that I've become way too emotionally connected to Baldur's Gate, and that's going to make me want a backseat game in the worst way. So I'm just going to catch her VODs, or her VODs later or something, because otherwise I'm just going to struggle. I'm already kind of having that problem right now, because I've played through it once, and I've halfway played through it like 3 other times. And, I'm helping my wife play through now because she's never played a computer RPG. And, like, all of her community friends are super into it. So she's like, I've got to give this a try. And so I'm helping her through her version of the multiplayer. And one of my other coworker friends, who's actually a friend outside now, he's trying to go through it. But he's far less interested in, like, the story. He just kind of wants to explore the world and see what D&D has become, and how it's being represented in the video game. And he clearly doesn't have the same, you know, priorities that I did playing the game. So it's like, I'm gonna let you do your thing, and I'll just be here if you need me. I had to uninstall. It was taking up too much of my disk space. I think right now, with the last big patch, which was patch 6, it's 130 gigabytes of space. And honestly, to be completely honest, I'd probably uninstall every other game I had to keep that one on there, because it's so worth it in so many ways. I like RPGs, I like computer RPGs. Mass Effect was, like, formative for me in college. But, and so it's meant that I get very emotionally connected to the characters. I was working in game dev and needed more space for a new project. That's absolutely fair. I got super lucky, and I have an extra 1 terabyte solid state drive on top of my regular 1 terabyte solid state drive in my laptop. And so I've got plenty of space to have a whole bunch of bullshit on there. You've been working on your internship at TT Games. It's been a fantastic opportunity. It's wild to think I'm already at the halfway point. Yeah, geez, like the last time I saw you, you had just gotten the job. So, like, super, super cool. Congratulations. That's freaking awesome. That's kind of what, something like that, that's kind of what got me through when I was in, like, the emotional low points, is knowing that my friends were doing well. And I think between how this year has gone in general, and just, you know, finally hitting that breaking point, I've gotten really sad knowing that a lot of my friends aren't doing well. And so hearing any good news is like, the best. Okay, you gotta head out for dinner later. Thank you for showing up. Have a good dinner. Eat all the good food. Speaking of good food, I'd love to eat some good food. One of my favorite restaurants in the area. Whoops, it's all blurry. Yeah, and I'm actually trying to do that right now. I'm not, like, being too coercive about it, but I got a buddy he's been a good friend for quite a few years, and he just seems to have the worst luck economically. And right now he's working as a bus driver, and the job just keeps kicking him while he's down, to the point where he's clearly, you know, just kind of falling into a deeper hole. And he's looking to get into some non-labor job. Like, he's been doing physical labor jobs since he was 16. he can't do it anymore. It's killing him slowly. It's not paying enough for him and his fiancée to survive. And he's always been real bright. He was just homeschooled, so his like formal education's not there. And so I was like, hey, I've got these online courses for IT. You want to steal my password and do these online courses for IT? Because a desk job at a help desk will pay you a little more, and you're gonna hate it a whole lot less. So he's coming over 2 days out of the week so I can help get him started up on that, and then help him get registered at the local university or at the local community college, because with his education and his economic level, he can basically get student loans that he'll never have to pay back. So it's all about trying to help him into a better situation as well. Okay, so this guy is about done. I don't think there's much more I can do with him except give another layer of the wash on the smog, because I just kind of want to make it look a little bit green and gross. I think the flies look pretty okay. And now I've just got to base him up, which I'll do off camera, because for me basing is just like throwing junk at a wall until some of it falls in a good pattern around the base. But yeah, that model I showed at the last community day kind of inspired me to rebuild my Death Guard army, because I sold all of it, or most of it. It had been painted by someone else and sold to me as a lot, and it was like, okay, cool, I got Death Guard. But then I really didn't like the fact that I didn't paint any of them, and I was too cowardly to strip them and redo them. And so I just got rid of them. And now, after seeing how good that combat patrol came out, I've wanted to redo them. And so a lot of the characters are going to get this really bright, high contrast, high saturation look. And everyone else is going to be, grimdark, because why not? And actually, I'm really excited for Monday, because the next community day entry is going to be a big one. And it'll just have to be a surprise. So this is the one I'm working on now. This is the last guy in the trio. If you don't know, because I don't remember how much you've been into Warhammer recently, but the Death Guard, they got a new army release in 8th edition, and one of the models they had was called the Death Shroud Bodyguard, and they were supposed to be these super elite warriors that were like personal bodyguards. Thank you, Mr. Motorhead. This one's just been primed. This is the one that I just finished. This is the one I was working on yesterday, and I think the day before that, and maybe the day before that. But he's all done. I just need to base him up, and he'll be good. But this guy is the sergeant of the group, and they all carry these. I love the name of the scythes in this, the Man Reaper scythes, and obviously he's got a face, because the big bad's got to have the face. And so I'm going to actually switch brushes for this one. I've been using a really crappy beat-down Citadel brush, which is kind of missing its tip at this point. I've lost the lead hairs that give it a tip, in the same way that I did with this Winsor & Newton brush, so they look kind of poopy. So, when I actually start doing the blending and start trying to get the really nice borders cleaned up on him, I'm switching to this one, which has a considerably nicer tip than the other two. So we'll see how that turns out. And then they're all going to get attached to Typhus, which is the nasty guy with the... One moment, let me find him. Which is this one. And then all 4 of them are just going to be the most awful, disgusting slap chop you've ever seen. And I'm going to make everyone hate playing against them. And that's what's going to be great. So, that's the plan. And then once I start getting money again, my next goal is to take these guys and start buying back into Death Guard, so I just have this incredible army that's going to be really pretty, and then I can take them to games and get tabled really quickly, because I'm not very good at Warhammer. But I do not care, because they're cool, and that's all that matters to me. So, where'd it go? The way this mini starts, I've done this a couple times now, and I've gotten pretty good at it, is first I have to start with, like, a deep maroon red, which I've been using Gal Vorbak red, and bright orange. And those two colors are going to go on first to give it the initial coat, and then we're going to slowly move up to a green and then up to a yellow highlight, which I'm very excited about because I'm really getting to that point where I'm no longer nervous about screwing these guys up because I know I'm good enough to do them justice. Okay. But yeah, I've been, I'm now entering my second month of unemployment, and I've never been unemployed this long. So I'm a little bit freaking out about it, just because it's a new situation, a new scenario for me. And the last time I was in between jobs like this, it was voluntary for one, but for two, I didn't own a house and a car and have 3 pets and a wife. So I'm a little bit more anxious about not having any income right now. And I've been applying to jobs a lot more frequently. And first of all, the job market here sucks because they're not obligated to post like their salary or their pay, and half the jobs look like they're AI generated. Yeah, that's right, because you had that period of unemployment too. I'm glad you were able to not have to be there for too long. But I've applied for a couple places. I have no idea if I'm going to hear back for them or when I'm going to hear back for them or whatever else you want to call it. But yeah, that's just leaving me anxious. And all I can do is thank my lucky stars that I'm married to Art by QB, because she's been nothing but supportive and completely understands the situation, and actually was one of the ones that kind of encouraged me to A, seek professional counseling and medical help regarding my health issues, and then B, not to feel bad about having to leave the job. So, yay for that. But, you know, I've basically been consistently employed since I was about 16. Yeah, supportive partners are the best. It's been pretty good. I tried to give her a good luck money hole this morning, as everything was closing down, and unfortunately it got missed. So that's 25k of Doigle bucks that I no longer own. But that's okay. I think Star Spike saw it and was trying to wish her good luck. I mean, things could be much worse. Things could be much, much worse. I'm not too worried about it. I just thought that was funny. Everyone was really excited because Onsta was going to go take a nap, and Doig and Swift were, I think, ready to do something else. So it's all good. But yeah, I'm feeling anxious not being employed and not having a job. And so hopefully something will happen and I will be able to get one. But in the meantime, I'm going to keep myself busy by either training myself or helping train other people. Thank you, I appreciate it. I did recently find out, I told Doig this on stream a couple days ago, but Doig was interested in getting like a heavy bag and learning how to box. And first of all, it's like, yes, I will train you, Doig. Just let me get over there. I'm grabbing my coat. I'll be there in a minute. I don't know if I've ever mentioned it on stream, and I probably have, but for a little while I was a level 1 certified coach with USA Boxing, at the encouragement of my coach, who was the president of the Virginia Boxing Association for many years. And it just meant that I could assist in coaching with a local boxing club. I wasn't like able to start my own and train people that way. And so that's still one of my like minor passions that I have, even though I don't do it as frequently anymore. So I am very much capable of training someone in the basics of boxing. And, you know, I was a teacher for a reason. I do love teaching people. And so I'm serious like a heart attack. If Doig wants to learn, I will gladly teach him how to punch things. safely and responsibly. But I found out that one of my friend's friends has started watching Hajime no Ippo, which is a fairly long-standing boxing anime, and the reason I got into boxing. And I just keep telling him, look, tell this guy I'll train him. I will teach him how to box before he goes to a gym so that he can have a little bit of an understanding of the expectations at the gym. Yeah, Paunch, right? It definitely gave me a little bit more credibility with the students because, you know, especially in high school, in a lower income area, the kids like to cut up and they like to play fight. And they do that to assert their dominance. And every now and then I'd watch them do this, and eventually I'd have to break it up and tell them, hey, stop it. And they'd give you the sullen look of, what do you know? And I tell them, you're going to hurt yourself with that form. And then they'd look at me kind of funny, like, you don't know what you're talking about. And then I'd tell them what they were doing wrong, and how they're leaving themselves open. And then I'd show them my jab, which is, you know, the punch you throw with your weak hand. And I have a punch shield, which looks kind of like an overinflated bar stool cushion. And it's meant for coaches to use for heavier punchers when their wrists go bad, because using the punch mitts all the time is really damaging on the wrists if you've been doing it for a long enough period. So you get something called a punch shield to kind of take and absorb that punishment so your wrists don't have to. And I bought one just because they're fun to have. And so I would bring that in every now and then, let them hit it, and then correct their form, and then let them hold it while I hit it. And I'd always only do like the weak punch with the left hand. But because I know what I'm doing, it's kind of like the Bruce Lee moment where they don't know how to stand properly, and they're not expecting it to be as powerful as it is, so they go flying back, and suddenly no one wants to fight in Ben Repaints' room anymore. So that was always fun. And see, that's the thing, is like, I didn't want to quit teaching because I hated teaching and I hated the kids or anything. I liked the kids, and by and large, I was a pretty well-regarded teacher. But it was just like, I can't throw up every morning. That's no fun. Yeah, that's basically what it was. And then I'd always have a bunch of kids ask me if I could train them, and I'd teach them some dumb stuff, and they still wouldn't be good enough to use it on each other. But it got them to stop hitting each other, and that was the important thing. Because unfortunately, that's become a lot more common in the school system. At least where I am. I'm a pain in his butt. There we go. And of course it also helped that I didn't really hide the fact that I was a big old nerd. So they would have that thing of like, you know, they think nerds don't just sit around and play video games and do the Magic the Gatherings and whatnot. And then they find out, no, he's also an athlete. It's like, ah. I will say the one, oh gosh, I didn't notice that with this guy. That's so cool. So these guys all have these like little exhaust vents on their underneath their arms for their Terminator armor, like the hydraulic. It is, but a lot of these kids still know that, right? The celebrities are the exceptions. Everyone else follows the rule. Yeah, but yeah, they've got these pipes that are supposed to, I guess, be extra cooling or extra heat exhaust. This one turned into like a tapeworm with a mouth. I don't know if you can see it very well, but that's freaking neato. I can't wait to paint that part of him. I also found a 3D printable file for a Great Unclean One. And Art by QB hates the Great Unclean One. That's by far her least favorite model in all of 40K. And one time I actually went to go buy one. I won a local painting competition with a Gilliman and some other Death Guard guys. And so that gave me a pretty good discount. And I was like, I can actually afford a Great Unclean One. And she was like, you know, well, if you want to get it, I'm not going to stop you if that's what you want. But then I noticed she was looking around the store as I was holding it in my hands. And she went, oh, hey, don't you want to practice painting Custodes. You've been talking about those, and she's got the combat patrol for the Adeptus Custodes. And yes, I had gotten onto a big non-metallic metal kick in learning how to do that. What about the Great Clean One? Oh gosh, that is one of my favorite pieces of cursed imagery. For those who don't know about the Great Clean One, I'm about to make your day much worse. Someone took the Resin Forge World Great Unclean One, and they smoothed him out and sanded him down. Actually, let's see. Where is the original? There it is. Oh, God. Unbothered, moisturized, happy, in my lane, focused, flourishing. Someone took the original Great Unclean One sculpt, which is... We're going to find it in a second. Is this it? Yep, that's it. Oh, boy. Here we go, guys. Oh, that matched up perfectly. That is the Great Unclean One. The original resin sculpt for him. He's missing his tongue and his sword arm. But they took that, and yeah, flourishing, right? And they sanded it down, and they filled it in with milliput and whatnot. And then, give me a second. I gotta find this now. They fleshed him out, for lack of a better term, and just made him the most awful thing I've ever seen. Let me see if I can find a good picture of him. Oh gosh, the back of him has a butt! They made a bottom, I can't show that. Okay. Give me a sec. Yep, there it is. Yep, it's right there. Boom! Oh man. That is one of my favorite models of all time. It's so horrifying. I'm sorry, people. I'm sorry, audience. But this is what we're seeing today. That is the Great Clean One. I think since it's a model, I can show this, but here is his backside, which they also did. They modeled the entire thing. And all I know is that if someone put that on the table across from me, I would just forfeit. I would just be like, okay, you won. I don't want to be in the same room as that thing. Oh goodness. Yeah, the Great Clean One is peak stupidity. And a huge reason why I love 40k is because people make stuff like that. But yeah, that's the kind of ridiculousness that you can find. Okay, I need to go ahead and add a little bit more orange into this magenta, maroon, whatever you call it, because this is not showing up well enough. It's probably too watered down is the problem. Something that I have learned that I'm still not very good at is move the model to the brush, do not move the brush to the model. And I'm not great at it, but I'm trying, and that's all I can say. Oh my goodness, I forgot, he's got a maw for his stomach too. This is a good time. I'm having a good time. This was not an army I thought I was going to like when I first heard about and saw 40k. I distinctly remember really wanting to play Tau, because I like giant robots, and so I started buying into Tau, but we ended up getting like a starter pack for 40k for the school, and unfortunately at the time it didn't really take off. I wasn't well enough aware of Warhammer to do anything with it, and no one wanted it, so I just kind of took it home, and I painted up the Space Marines, and I had zero interest in painting the Death Guard because I just thought they were disgusting. And eventually I found Midwinter Mini's video on how to speed paint the starter Death Guard from that box. Whoops, I'm traveling. And he made it look so easy, and he made it so simple that I was like, oh, okay, you know what? I gotta try this. I'll go ahead and give this a shot. And I had such a fun time just painting how disgusting they are, and painting all of like the rusted metal and just the general symbol of decay that I was like, I gotta get more. I gotta get more of these guys. It also didn't help that at the time, most of the friend group that was playing Warhammer was playing some form or another of Space Marine. So I also felt kind of compelled as the one who was the most financially committed to the game that maybe I should get an army that isn't just Space Marine. And so that's kind of where I am now. Except now I've read all the lore, and so I am a huge fan of, like, Mortarion and all of this grossness. And my goal is to try and make my opponent as uncomfortable as possible. There was one guy, I think he was on one of the YouTube channels, I think Tabletop Titans, maybe? And, wait a minute. I just realized I shouldn't be doing the orange on this guy. But that's okay. And he'd been making, like, Death Guard Nurgle for like 5-10 years. And he made them all just maggots. If you ever, to get properly back into 40k, it'd be Guard, Votan, or Orcs. Well, see there, you just chose all the fun ones, didn't you? those, I mean, the Votan are really cool because they got the cool new models, and I only hope they get more. But, the Orcs and the Death Guard just have so many great, amazing kits. I will be honest, though, I want to collect more Death Guard, and I want to build back up to 2,000 points. But depending on when the Emperor's Children get announced, because that's going to happen, I'm going to go full in on Emperor's Children, and I'm going to make the tackiest army you've ever seen. You meant Imperial Guard. Yeah, golly, they cost so much money now, but they are so good. That's another army that I've been wanting to get back, or I've wanted to get into, because the aesthetic of them just being like, you know, bog standard humanity fighting against the odds is such a great look. And unfortunately, they're expensive, and I'm poor. But they changed the rules for army composition now, and they've made it a lot more flexible. So if you want to just go like almost fully mechanized and just do a ton of tanks and artillery, it's very doable, and I think very playable. I don't know. But they've definitely made it so you can have a lot more variety in your army, because you're not as restricted to having to have a minimum number of X, Y, and Z. I think the only thing they require you to have now is a warlord. Everything else can be made up of anything else in the army. You run tanks, ghost gaunts, Calidus Assassin with a few other units. Very cool. I had a plan before I left education, because I was also hosting the Tabletop Gaming Club, that I wanted to commit to buying all of the combat patrols and getting them painted up so that anyone who wanted to play Warhammer would have, like, a character select screen of potential armies to try out. And I think it was either going to be Orcs or Guard were going to be the next one. And I actually had a whole bunch of STL files from Station Forge that had, like, the approximations of the Guard. And I was going to print those out, and then I had to leave the job. Yeah, Orcs are great. I did have plans to do an Orc army that was going to be based around dumb movie references. I did one of them, which I submitted to the Doigan Swift Community Day, and my next one that I was going to do was going to be Speed Racer themed. But unfortunately, between the money situation and the stress situation, that just never materialized, and other projects started taking priority. So, maybe some other day. Maybe some other day. But unfortunately, not in the foreseeable future is that going to happen. Okay. But yeah, I just realized as I was painting this that I'm using the wrong color entirely. I should not have mixed the orange in with the maroon that I was using. This one should just be like a straight maroon because it's supposed to be relatively dark. So we're going to see what this looks like once I start putting the green on him. And if I don't like how it looks, I suppose I'm going to have to start over. And if that happens, is okay. Is okay, it happens. I'm putting thin enough layers that it's not too big a deal. And yeah, I think they've done such justice to the orcs with their new kits. They didn't deviate from the old school as much as they could have. They look great, and I love them. I did notice with the new war boss they put out that his head is substantially smaller than some of the other orc models, and I thought that was kind of funny. Get the bottle of Detel at the ready. I've been using 91% IPA, and it works remarkably well. I used to use Simple Green, and I'd have to soak it in there for like an hour, or for like a day, and then come back to it and scrub it off. Howdy, any chance you have any experience with Chaos Demons? A little bit. I painted a Chaos Demon Prince, and I painted a Warp Demon, which is one-page rules version of the Glotkin, and he's more fungal based than rot based. But here, one moment, let me find it. I've got stuff from my portfolio that you guys can see. So we're gonna go here. I'm gonna pull that. We're gonna go here. I'm gonna go to my Instagram. I think I have pictures of the Demon Prince on here. We'll have to find out. I know I have pictures of the Glotkin because that was a big deal model. Give me... Okay, yep. So, Bing, window capture. Thanks for sharing. Been thinking about starting an army. I haven't gotten to play them, is the thing. So yeah, that's my, someone commissioned me to do a Slaanesh Demon Prince. And so that's the Slaanesh Demon Prince. And that's how that turned out. I was really proud of it because I was still kind of learning, you know, blending and whatnot. And so, I thought it turned out really heckin' cool. But yeah, that's what that looked like, and it actually made me really want to get into the Chaos Demons because that model's awesome. Thank you. It's entirely non-metallic metal, and the client wanted them to look like they were on fire. They had a reference picture of like some nail art where they had painted fire and flame on very dark painted nails. It's like, I'll do my best. And let me see if I can find the Glotkin real quick. Well, not the Glotkin. He was just called like a something avatar. I don't remember. But he very much was not Nurgle based, while also being Nurgle based. So yeah, there's that guy. That's what that one looked like. He was supposed to be very fungal, and I have a friend who's a biology teacher. And he gave me all sorts of references of these like bright, very poisonous looking mushrooms. So I used as much of that as I could as reference for painting this guy. And the more I look at him, the more I want to kind of get more of the details and make it pop a little more. But in terms of how all the colors turned out, I loved how just vibrant he is. I don't think I have pictures of them actually, which is weird for me. I also painted the Blood Bowl miniatures for Nurgle, which were, I guess, Nurgle's rotters. And I had a lot of fun with that. And by far the dumbest thing I did with those guys is I made them all look like they pooped their pants. Because my friends and I all have, you know, grade school humor level, or maturity. So they've all got it just kind of running down their the back of their sports trousers. But yeah, I'd love to actually paint some more. If I had the money I wish I had, I would have probably an army, at least a combat patrol of each army, if not 1,000 points. Is there anything else I need to do with this guy that's... Oh yeah, this one. There we go. Trying to remember which parts of him are actually going to be green, now that I've hacked this up. You've been thinking of giving your horrors all weird cat ears? That'd be amazing. You should do it. Kit bashing is like the best part of the hobby as far as I'm concerned. So if that's what you want to do with it, go for it. The more creativity we have here, the better, as far as I am concerned. I think if everyone painted it, you know, standard Games Workshop way, we'd have a lot of really pretty Games Workshop armies, but we wouldn't really be embracing the creativity aspect of the hobby. You know what I mean? Like, when I first got some of the Tau that I got a combat, or the start collecting for the Tau back when they had that thing, and I got a Commander Shadow Sun, and my immediate thought was I wanted to paint them like the pilots from Robotech, with her being Miria. And so that's what I did. And they don't look that good, but I was really proud of them when I did them. And so my current plan is that once I have a little more free time and clean up a little bit more of my portfolio, I'm going to go ahead and get some halfway decent professional photos of them, so that I can show off what my original paint job looked like as nicely as possible. And then I'm just going to strip them and completely redo them in the exact same scheme, but with a much better understanding of the technical aspect of the painting. And I guess I'll see how that looks. Okay. Yeah, see, I accidentally put way too bright an undercoat on him. This was not the color combination I was meaning to go for. I meant to go with a much darker maroon. My brain crossed circuits, and I started thinking of the non-metallic metal rusted brass that they have as their trim. But it's going to be okay. I'm just going to go ahead and cover that up, and no one's going to know. Yeah, I can just cover all that up, because I think this green is a dark enough shadow color that if I do give it all a cover up, it'll transition fine. Okay, go and get that drink. I should probably have brought a drink down here. So, Chachacho, I think this is your first time here, and if so, welcome. I'm Ben Repaints. I'm a small-time hobby painter who also does commissions. And right now, I don't have any commissions, so I'm just kind of painting what I want to paint. Doing very well, thank you. So you mentioned that you're thinking of getting into Chaos Demons. What armies do you play? What brings you here? I'm always excited to meet new people who are into the hobby. I'm actually an Imperial Fist player, if you can tell by my shirt, of my little Vipo over in the corner. But I've kind of reached a point with that army where I'm like, I've got everything I need for now. I played Lizardmen way back when I was 13, which I think was like 2002-ish. So you're a little bit younger than I am. Or a little bit older than I am. Younger? You're older. You're a year older than me, I think. Watching battle reports on and off for the last 20 years. That's fair. My wife, actually, she's not super into the Warhammer, but she saw the Lizardmen, which I guess are now called the Seraphon, and kind of fell in love with them because she loves dinosaurs. So she bought the start collecting for the Seraphon, and have painted them up to be kind of like Vaporwave. Yeah, they're so freaking cool. They recently got a minor range refresh, and it took everything in my being to not spend the money to get the army box, because they are such a good army. So good, such a good theme. They look so darn good. Yeah, the Slan are really cool. Everything about them is cool. I want to get a Lord Croak model just to paint the Lord Croak model. Actually, you want to see something neat? I follow a couple of other streamers named Doig and Swift, and I'm a really big fan of them. And so they know I do the mini painting, and they have this thing called Community Day where you can kind of show off what you've been working on. And the Chameleon Skinks are some of my favorites. Yeah, they look great. I want to get me some of them. But they do a Community Day thing where you can kind of show off what you're doing. And one Community Day, I did a mini painting of one of their mutual friends and said, hey, I'd like to do a miniature to represent you guys. What would you like? And Swift said she wanted to be a dinosaur, and Doig said that I should do a dinosaur with Doig as the other character riding the dinosaur. Hey Kieran, welcome back. And so that's what I did. I found there's a company called One Page Rules that makes Warhammer adjacent models. and they made their version of the Seraphon called the Saurians. And so I found like the largest one I could, and then found a Beastmen model they did and made that Doig since he's a little bear, and went ahead and painted them up in their style. So if you give me a second, I'm going to show you a really freaking cool, not real model. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Where'd it go? That's not it. That's not it. That's not it. That's not it. December, November. Oh yeah, no, that is it. Okay. Keepers. Bing. Okay, so first of all, let me find you a Doig and Swift, because I will relentlessly promote Doig and Swift if I can. They're super cool people. Search. Doig Swift. There we are. So Chichacho was just telling me that he loves the lizard men, and so I'm going to show him something. So this is Doig and Swift. They use a really cool setup on Unity to stream on Twitch, and like that right there is Doig. I don't know if you can see my mouse. He's a little bear with antlers, and Swift is a little scrungly crow, and they're really funny, and they do a lot of good things. So if you can, follow Doig Swift first of all, but second of all, as part of Community Day, I went ahead and painted up a model for them. And let me see if I can... No, not the to-do list. That needs to stay there. We're going to take window capture and put that away for a second. And yeah, Kieran, I don't know if you saw this. I don't remember if you were there for it. But... Boom! That's not it. That's them again. There we go. Boom. Is there any way for me to change the size of this window? Because it's way too big. Okay, but anyway, that is part of the model I made for them. So there's Swift. That's supposed to be a Carnosaur, and it was supposed to have like a Seraphon, a Saurian rider, but I went ahead and switched that up, and instead I put a little Beastman that's supposed to be Doig. And so that was in November, I think. And yeah, they were really excited about it. They're really happy about it. I got the reaction I was hoping for. The only thing is like, I don't want it anymore. They can definitely have it, but it's going to cost like $100 to ship, and I don't have that kind of money. That month, I was so excited to do it that as soon as I found out that that's what they wanted, I immediately printed it and painted it, and finished it in like 3 days. And so I had a whole lot of extra time, and I had actually traded for a Belisarius Call. And I went ahead and painted that in the middle of the month, and was able to show them both off for that Community Day. And that's another model that turned out to be an absolute banger. You love the black on the Carnosaur? Thank you. I ended up dry brushing it with like a really dark blue, so I could give the Carnosaur slightly more color depth than just like a flat black, because that was one of my biggest like pet peeves about doing black, is that if you just tried to like value it up to a brighter highlight, it just ends up looking like grayscale. You did yours neon green, it didn't turn out as cool as you hoped. I bet it looks okay. I bet you're just being kind of hard on yourself. There's also probably something you can do to salvage it, if that's what you're going for. There's always something you can do to these guys. But yeah, my wife, Art by QB, did hers as like a pastel blue, like a pastel green blue, and then they had like a bright pink underbelly. And she's not done painting hers, but they look really, really good. So I'm excited for when she's going to be done with them, and that way they can really get shown off in the new display cabinet we got. Okay. Because there was an estate sale a couple of houses down, and we were able to buy like a really nice glass china cabinet for not very much money. And that's also where I found out that I am really skeeved out by estate sales. Though apparently that one in particular was not a good one because the person had passed suddenly, and so they didn't even have time to really move a lot of their personal effects out of the house. Because Art by QB, oh, that stuff is all long gone, you're starting fresh? Absolutely fair. Especially now that they've got those new, like, Vanguard sets that really bring the price down. But yeah, Art by QB was telling me, because she had an aunt that used to troll around for estate sales to try and, you know, see neat things and get some cost-effective, you know, appliances and furniture and knickknacks. But at this particular house, they, I guess everything had happened so suddenly, they just had enough time to, like, put stickers on everything. And so, and move out the really important stuff. So when we got there, there were still, like, pictures of the family on the walls. And I just couldn't help but feel really, really uncomfortable looking around at this person's stuff. And it's like, I don't want to do this anymore. So my thing was to get the china cabinet and get out. I had originally not gone. She went there by herself while I was hanging out with a friend, and she texted me to say, "Hey Benry, there's a china cabinet here that they're selling for a good price. Do you want me to get it?" And I told her, heck yeah, we'll go ahead and get it, because we've been looking for a display cabinet, because she's got some stuff she wants to display. I feel like I'm getting good enough at this mini painting thing that I want to display. And so yeah, I don't ever want to go to an estate sale again, please. I'm very uncomfortable. We found a not a cradle, but like a baby, a toddler bed up in the attic. And it's like, I don't need to keep having reminders that people lived here. That was weird. Estate sales are weird. I say that I'm apparently very uncomfortable with the concept of death, I say as I'm painting this rotting zombie man. But I mean, like, the next of kin were there, and they had told us already that they had gotten everything that was, like, important personal effects out. So the stuff we were kind of rooting through was leftover junk that no one really wanted, and that felt a little better. Though I will say, I was not going to be that guy, but I kind of wanted to grab one of the photos and be like, how much for this one? But if I did that, I think Art by QB would have pushed me down the stairs. So, whoops. So I'm glad I didn't do that. The intrusive thoughts don't win very often. And actually, while I'm thinking about it, because my mind has been stuck on this game, Baldur's Gate. So, how is Lady V doing on Baldur's Gate? I have not been able to catch it, and I don't think I will, for the aforementioned reasons. But how has her game been going? Have you been there to watch and comment and enjoy the shenanigans of that game? Because, like I said, the last time I was there, she was still creating her TAV. She restarted as a tiefling, redid everything she did the first stream, and then continued where she left off last time. I don't know where she left off last time. I'm tickled that she restarted and decided that she wanted to remake her character, but that's her prerogative. Yeah, like, how far did she get in stream 1 before she had to call it quits that day? I don't want to... Well, actually, I take that back. I don't care if I have to say this. I'm pretty obsessed with it at this point. I'm way too deep in the rabbit hole for Baldur's Gate. If I had more bravery, I would definitely play it on stream. But I am a baby who can't stick to his choices, so it's become something I'm just kind of playing with friends and privately. Have you actually played the game? Because if not, then I'm not. It's kind of unfair for me to ask where was she last time if you yourself don't have a lot of experience in it. I didn't see the last of the stream, but for Landmark, she got Karlach. Very cool. Easily my favorite character. I love Karlach. I actually found a beautiful 3D printed statue of her. And unfortunately, like I said, no money right now, but as soon as I get some, that's going to be something I'm going to paint on stream. I have no idea how big it is. You have not played it? Honestly, don't plan to. Okay, so can I tell you one of the best things to do with Karlach? Because I don't know how much... You don't care about... Okay, so Karlach's a barbarian, and Karlach has the rage ability, and her main feature is strength, right? And all of that plays really well into making her what everyone's been calling a throwbarian. And what it is that you can... The game is so flexible, and that's a huge reason why I kind of got into it, that you can actually pick up enemies and throw them. And so what people do is they give her a feat called Tavern Brawler, which adds her strength modifier twice to her attack rolls, right? Which includes throwing. So what people have been doing is they've taken Karlach, respect her, because that's something you can do to like stat dump into strength, given her Tavern Brawler, and then just made it so whenever she picks up something and throws it, she does a humongous amount of damage. And there have been jokes about people like making her carry boxes so that when the battle starts, she can just take the boxes out of her pocket and stack them up and then jump on them and then throw heavy things from an extreme height because they do extra fall damage for however high they are. And there's no cap on the fall damage. So Karlach can theoretically be like 30 feet in the air and throw, I don't know, a tea kettle at someone. And then it falls for 30 feet, does, I think it's 3d6 extra fall damage on top of the damage it's normally doing, alongside her strength modifier and all the other fun stuff that you normally get. So Karlach's damage output is stupid. And on top of that, you get something called the Ring of Flinging, which adds even more damage to the fall damage. And eventually, you can get some gloves that add even more damage to the fall damage. And it's just like, she just continually can be stacked to have even more and more fall damage. And she can get a weapon that returns to her hand. So now you're throwing a 15-pound javelin that returns every turn. And one of the first things that you really fight in the game is goblins, right? And since goblins are child-sized, you can pick them up and throw them. So what a lot of people do in Chapter 1 is they'll spec out Karlach to be a throwbarian and then just throw the goblins at each other. And so it becomes peak D&D when you have a barbarian who just flies into a rage and starts throwing goblins at each other and ends up wiping out the entire goblin camp. And on top of that, you know, she's just got that awesome personality. Okay, so I think I'm going to have to go back and do some blending, because you can clearly see where like the green ends and the dark green begins. But for right now, for blocking everything off, this is going to work. But yeah, there's a lot of dumb things you can do in that game, because Larian Studios very clearly knew what they were doing when they were making it. And they did a great job of translating some of the mechanical weirdness of 5th edition into a video game. And to top that off, I don't know if you've got the kind of free time, but if you have the chance and if you're interested in playing computer RPGs, you should definitely pick up Rogue Trader. Because Rogue Trader is another RPG studio, Owlcat's, take on 40K. And so you play as a rogue trader who's kind of thrust into the job after the original rogue trader is killed and is assassinated. And you're like next in line. So you get to be a rogue trader in a very unstable sector of the Imperium, as like suspicious cult activity is afoot. And Owlcat did for Rogue Trader and for Warhammer what Larian Studios did for D&D and Baldur's Gate. And the only problem with the game that is increasingly less of a problem is that it was buggy as hell when it first came out. And so there were a lot of like game-breaking, game-ending bugs. And it looks like I was playing it, I think, in October, November, and being incredibly obsessed with it. But since then, it's fixed almost all the bugs that were like game-breaking. And so now, it's just a really freaking good game. It's not to the level of Baldur's Gate, clearly. But now that it's been kind of patched up and fixed and prettied up, it's a really, really good computer RPG set in the Warhammer universe. The only thing that stopped me from beating it was I got to endgame, and before I was about to go to like the final area, one of my party members, who was pretty important, told me, hey look, I want to go with you, but unless you help me find the rest of my clan, I'm not going with you. And I was really upset because I had already given the approval that, yeah, we were going to go ahead and find your clan first. But apparently, because of a glitch in the game, that switch didn't trigger, so the game treated it as though I had never agreed to help him find his clan. And since I wanted to have a Space Wolf Space Marine help me in the final part of the game, it just kind of locked me out. But that was back in November, I think. So, at some point, I'm going to go ahead and stream playing through Rogue Trader again, because I really want to. And I'll admit, very unabashedly, that I'm a giant baby when it comes to role-playing games. Like, I always have to choose the choice that's, like, the gooderest choice. I can't play a bad guy. Excuse me. So, knowing that I would never play this style in, at my personal game, I'm going to make the most awful, like, Imperial, dogmatic, you know, adherent to the Imperial Creed, and I'm going to play through the game like that, because it gives you all of the most despicable options if you do that. One of the most minor ones is that you get a seneschal named Abelard, and he's a really cool guy, he's really loyal to you, he's a good dude, and a lot of the times the villains that you meet are like, who the hell are you? And you can usually announce yourself. You can be like, my name is blah blah blah, you know, heir to the blah 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 empire, and you're a bad person. And that's normally how you can do it. Or you can just turn to Abelard and be like, hey Abelard, announce who I am, and make him have to do it. And that's like the most minor of shitty things you can do there. At one point, you're told that there's a whole bunch of orphans left in your ship because of how many staff died during the uprising that got the previous Rogue Trader killed. And so you can be like, that's not my problem. I don't care about a bunch of kids. Throw them out the airlock. Or you can actually go down and talk to them, and because they kind of like, you know, wring your arm about it. And if you do, you can talk to the kids, and you can try and be nice, and you can actively like try and encourage them and show them that you're going to take care of them. Or you can just talk to your lieutenant and be like, you know, officer, have these kids taken away and beaten so that they know not to speak out again, and they know who's in charge. And it's just like, the game does not shy away from being a terrible person, which works perfectly in lockstep with the 40k universe. And like, I'm not going to relish being a bad person, but I am going to thoroughly enjoy playing him, because it's not something I would ever do in my own playthrough. Oh, and you get an Eldar Ranger as a companion. One of your party members can be an Eldar Ranger, and she was featured pretty prominently in the in like the key art for the game to show the diversity of your party. And you can try and be nice to her and try and understand the Eldar and build her trust. Or you can just be like, you're going to stay in the hold, because I don't trust you, you filthy knife ear. And so, like, and you have a Psyker on your party, and at one point you actually get, like, a Rogue Trader or not a rogue trader, an Inquisitor's officer. I can't remember what they're called. But you can tell him, like, you know, I don't like the Xenos anymore. You can take them with you and have them executed. And he'll just actively get rid of them for you. The game just has so many opportunities to be an awful person and to fit right in with how 40k is portrayed. And I'm too baby to do any of it. So hopefully I'll have the courage to do it on stream. And they've also just got like the best portraits. I can keep talk about it until I'm blue in the face. Owlcat Studios did an amazing job with Rogue Trader. And honestly, if you have the ability and you have the interest, anyone in here, it goes beyond Renegade Shepherd. Renegade Shepherd was a great, magnificent bastard, but even at his cruelest, he couldn't match what you can do in Rogue Trader. Your character can constantly just be incredibly callous to everyone and anyone who gets in the way of him or her doing anything, because the needs of the Imperium outweigh the needs of the masses. It's so good. Renegade Shepherd wishes he could be as efficient and as authoritative as the Rogue Trader. Speaking of, did you know that they're making another Mass Effect? I'm sorry if I'm yelling, by the way. I can't tell. No, I'm not yelling. Okay, I've got the cap on. Apparently, BioWare is remaking Dragon Age 1, doing another sequel to Dragon Age, and they're doing a proper sequel to the Mass Effect trilogy. And honestly, I don't know how I feel about it, because I don't know, has BioWare made anything of note recently? I'd be excited about it because it's like a true sequel, but if it's not being made by people with kind of the same vision, I'm not sure. I missed it. What'd I say? That's okay. But yeah, it's not like the people who made the original Mass Effect games have all left to do other things. So I don't know. I'm cautiously excited. Yeah, no, that game died. Unfortunately, Anthem is dead. I don't know if they took the servers down or anything, but I think there's like less than 4 people playing it right now. They announced that there's no support for it and all that other sad stuff. That was such an inglorious fall for that franchise and for that company. I don't know. I will be as optimistic as I can about it. Because I would love to have another good BioWare game. Like, I think I mentioned it earlier, Mass Effect was a huge part of my young adulthood. Speaking of, look at how this guy is turning out. I know that has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but look at this guy. He's looking real good. I'm excited about this. Having a new brush helps so much. This isn't even the new brush. This is the old brush. The old brush is giving me these beautiful, beautiful, like, blends and whatnot. I'm so happy. He's beginning to believe. So yeah, I think you're actually kind of getting a sneak peek at what my next community day thing is going to be. Might be. I don't know. I've got a whole month to think about it. But yeah, I'm kind of on this big Death Guard kick right now, so I really want to finish these guys up. Yeah, there's a group called NADPod that do a Dungeons & Dragons podcast, and Art by QB turned me on to them. And one of my favorite things about them is that they've had to deal with pixies in their game, and the DM's idea of pixies is that, you know, they are evil little fey bastards. And one of the most iconic things about them is that they say tee-hee in like that really high-pitched voice, and then they cause some kind of horrifying chaos to unfurl. So the DMs like conditioned all of the players to be absolutely terrified at any voice saying the phrase tee hee. And so every now and then he'll just break it back out to scare them. And it immediately causes them to start panicking and trying to figure out where the hell it came from. And now whenever I hear tee hee, that's the first thing I think of. So please don't set my house on fire. You don't know my true name. Okay, just fact-checked. BioWare's last game was... Oh, they actually did make the Legendary Edition. Okay. That was pretty well received, if I recall properly. The last... my interest in it immediately died when I found out that there was going to be no multiplayer. Because... I think... Is it? I think the Mass Effect multiplayer for Mass Effect 3 is on record as the game I have committed the most hours to. And it's not super impressive by much of a stretch, by any stretch, because I'm not a very hardcore gamer. But I put like 400 hours into that thing. And I think the last time I looked at the stats, I was in like the top 5% of people who played the Mass Effect 3 multiplayer on PC. And that should upset me more than it does, but I'm wearing it like a badge of honor. But yeah, I think I found out that Legendary Edition wasn't going to have multiplayer, and I just immediately mentally checked out. Oh, speaking of, I got a buddy who loves Mass Effect, and he only ever got to play it offline. And I just gave him my old computer, which is like PlayStation 5 level power. He can play multiplayer with me now. I'm excited. I'm excited to play me some multiplayer. I'm excited to play some Helldivers. I have not gotten a chance to play that because I ran out of money when that game came out. But I am very excited to play some Helldivers with my friends. That game just looks so darn silly, you know what I mean? I'm ready to spread super democracy to some bugs and some robots. And I don't know if you've seen some of like the screenshots for it. Yeah, it's supposedly fantastic. It's a game that creates cinematic moments just through the organic gameplay, and it's become the new hotness, and that's super cool and all. Have you seen some of the art for it though? Like, some of the robot army just straight up look like Warhammer minis. They have one that looks like a Contemptor Dreadnought. They've got another that looks like the newer Primaris Dreadnought. It looks like Warhammer stuff, just under a skin of not being Warhammer. Unfortunately, all of that's on my phone, and my phone is the thing that is recording. Actually, you know what? No, I think I can get to it on Messenger. Okay, give me a second. I gotta find this. Okay. I forgot about that. I also got Tekken 8 recently, and King is a lot of fun to play in Tekken 8, and I'll just leave it at that. Where did it go? Where did it go? Where is the Dreadnought boy? This is too far back. Did I not post? I could have sworn I posted him on here. No. Oh, there it is. Okay. Image in new tab. Window capture. Okay. Tell me that thing is not a Dreadnought. Tell me that doesn't look like a Dreadnought. It's got the Gatling cannon, it's got the missile pod, it's got a big stupid boxy torso. That thing is a Dreadnought. That's not even the one I'm talking about. That just happens to be one that looks like the Dreadnought. So yeah, the entire game just it's so very much, you know, Starship Troopers, Warhammer. I'm over the moon about it, and I can't wait to play it with some friends. And I also found out, I don't know if you've heard this or not, but like the game didn't just set you in a world or in a universe with a bunch of AI or a bunch of like computer armies that you've got to kill, and they're just going to infinitely respawn, and you know, once you've saved these planets, then that's going to be it. They've got like a game master who is playing all of the computer forces and telling them where to go and what to invade. So there's actually like a staff member who is basically playing God for that game. And I dig that so much. That's such a cool way to keep the game alive and organic. And he's apparently doing a darn good job of it because Super Earth just lost Space Vietnam, which has been like their favorite stage. So he's clearly doing quite a bit to make life hard on the players. And that's the kind of news I want. I don't know about you. I feel like this is the game that Eternal Crusade wished it could be. So I'm very excited to give Helldivers a try. Okay, so next is going to be blending some of these colors back down. We're going to take some of that black and we're going to make it watered down really hard. I'm going to have to find a way to frame the palette camera so it actually looks like a palette camera over there. And then we're going to get that so it's really watered down, pull most of that water off. And then I'm just going to do a little bit of that across the wrist. And this is where I'm not very good at the whole blending thing, because blending difficult. But my understanding is you just want to water down whatever color you have quite a bit, and just very gently and very daintily drag it across the area that you're trying to blend, and eventually it'll dry shallow enough that you can't even see the transition. And I've had mixed messages, but I think if you want to get really nice smooth blends, you've got to blend towards the color that's closer to whatever color you're using. So if I'm trying to blend to like a lighter color, then I've got to push the paint towards the lighter of the two on the boundary. And that's what will give you a really nice smooth blend. But again, I don't know why it keeps traveling up into that corner. I don't know, and I suppose we'll find out as this stuff starts drying. Yeah, actually, to be honest, I can already see how it's working. That's very nice. This has always been like my Achilles heel and my white whale when it comes to mini painting is doing the smooth blending. I keep seeing these shots of like content creators doing these absolutely beautiful blends, and I'm like, man, I'm never going to be able to do that. And then, you know, I try it for 6 months, and then suddenly something clicks, and now I'm getting these beautiful blends. And even by that standard, they're not super smooth, they just kind of exist. And so that means there's only one place to go, and that's up. I can only get better at this. And that's been like my big inspiring thing about doing all this painting, is that I'm only going to get better. But yeah, like look what that little bit of wet blending did to the arm right there. There used to be a pretty clear boundary, and now it's almost gone. Same with down here on the leggy. That used to be a lot sharper, and now it just looks like a shadow, which is exactly what it's supposed to do. So clearly the blendies are doing their job. I recently had someone on stream who was much newer to the painting, and they were like, I'm never going to be as good as you. Like, I'm never going to be able to do what you're doing. And I understand why, because that's how I think and thought for a long time. Do I have the picture on here? I could have sworn I had the picture on here. I don't. But it's like, you know, you don't you don't start that good. You work your way there, right? And so I went and found my first ever Space Marine, and he's not like abysmal or anything. He wouldn't be on, you know, a message board being part of an internet meme, but it definitely wasn't to this skill level. So it's just all about growing and enjoying what you're doing. Don't paint for internet clout, right? Paint because you enjoy it. And I'm right now at a point where I just want to have more minis to paint. I'm doing commissions as often as I can, And I'm severely undercharging for them because I just want the experience of painting cool models. One of my former students got really hard into both Magic the Gathering and more recently Warhammer because he's had the money to do so. And on a whim, he bought the new Dark Angels army box. And he was like, well, I guess I'm starting Dark Angels now. And so he's decided that he wants to get the new Primarch, the new Lionel Johnson Primarch model. And if he does, he wants me to paint it because he wants the model to be done justice. You know what I mean? So now I'm just extremely excited at the prospect of painting Lionel Johnson. Speaking of, have you seen that new model? Because I think you were probably aware of Guilliman coming back to the setting, and Rabute Guilliman now being a model in 40k. But at the very end of 9th edition, Lionel Johnson, the Primarch of the Dark Angels, came back. And he is now an active part of the setting. Do you remember the lore around that character? Because Lionel Johnson's lore has been pretty consistent for a while. He, you know, Primarch of the Dark Angels, big important dude, and suffered some mortal wounds way back when, and has been kind of in like a stasis, asleep, under the fortress monastery of the, yeah, he was stuck in the rock for about 10,000 years. So that's the thing. The dude woke up. He woke up like in a forest, not knowing how he got there or why, and because he wasn't in stasis like Guilliman, he aged. So we now have a much older looking lion stalking the stalking not the Imperium. He's on the other side. There was that great rift, and now he's an Imperium Nihilus, doing the best that he can to make life miserable for everyone who is not part of the Imperium. And he looks absolutely amazing. They also have Belial, the Grand Master of the Deathwing. He just got a model. They redid Azrael. It's just, they've done so many cool models for the Dark Angels. And I don't like the Dark Angels, but I really want to get me some Dark Angels Terminators. They did new Deathwing Knights, new Inner Circle Companions. It's a bunch of good stuff. Okay, so we're gonna start with the lion. We're gonna start big. We're gonna start really big. Hey, too many sprues! Welcome, welcome, welcome. I was just gushing about how cool the new Dark Angel stuff looks. So I'm gonna show it off to Kieran because Kieran's an old Warhammer fan that hasn't seen some of the new stuff. So there it is. This is the new Lionel Johnson. I'm Ben Repaints. I'm a miniature painter. I'm a bit small time here, but I'm having a lot of fun painting up these Death Shroud Terminators that you'll be able to see in a minute after he gets a chance to... hey there, loving the green. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, this one is the important one. He's the Sergeant, so he's going to look a lot more smoothly blended than the current guys that I've been working on. Here's Belial, the Grand Master of the Deathwing. And I mean, just look at that Terminator armor. I thought that I didn't like the Terminator armor with the robes, and then I saw Belial, and I'm like, oh man, I like the Terminator armor with the robes now. And they got the Deathwing Knights here. They've got true scale Terminators now that are like awesomely proportioned. They've got the Inner Circle, who are actually former members of the Fallen, who obviously regretted what had happened, and once they found Lionel Johnson, they begged for forgiveness, and he reaccepted them into their fold. So yeah, Lionel Johnson has become a new player in the 40k universe, and there's a very good chance that I'm going to get to paint him, and I'm like beside myself with joy because that's such a cool model. Okay, so what I was kind of working on here is I had just gotten through doing the lighter green layer on top of the darker green, and so now I'm trying to blend them together better because, as I mentioned previously, this lad is like the Sergeant of the Death Shroud Terminators. So even though I've done all of them in this style, I want him to look especially good. Not Typhus. Typhus has like the big fart cloud of bloat flies following him. He's got like a cloak of it. So one moment, please. So this is the Typhus I did. I followed a tutorial, and it was from a gentleman named Philon Miniatures, who I'm going to promote relentlessly because his tutorial gave me the confidence to do this model, right? And so, yeah, his like mine looks great. His looks amazing. But yeah, that's Phelan Miniatures. I strongly suggest if you're here that you should go subscribe to him if you're interested in getting great tutorials on mini painting. He's entirely non-metallic metal. All of the bronze and the rust is all just simulated. I never noticed that this little guy was actually eating his guts. I think that that's fantastic. But yeah, this is this model. So I got him, and doing it like this inspired me. Like, I used to have a Death Guard army that I bought from someone else, and I wasn't really vibing with their paint job, so I sold it. Oh, thank you. Yeah, the NMM looks great, doesn't it? His is by far the best I've done. His is absolutely on point, fantastic. But so I redid Typhus, and I did it like this, and I was like, man, he's got to have a Death Shroud bodyguard. And so I painted up. I bought them recently, and now I've started painting up the Death Shroud bodyguard in a similar style. So all 4 of them are going to be a unit, and I'm just going to make everyone's lives miserable who has to face them when I actually finally get to play Death Guard. And so that's one of them. This guy I just finished actually earlier on stream. He's the second one. And right now I'm working on the Sergeant, who's going to be the leader of the group. And I'm going to base them off stream. You're a sucker for a challenge. My main army is orange and green, quarter panel Space Marines. Oh my god. Holy crap. I can't imagine trying to panel. I'm not good at straight lines. So that's amazing. If you have a link to it, I'd love to see it. Like, actually, what have you been working on? What were you working on during your stream? I'm now deathly curious. If you did quarter panel Space Marines, I gotta see what those things look like. Because I've seen some examples of them, and they always just absolutely blow my mind. Because that requires such meticulous planning. Okay. No, I want that to be. So we're gonna go ahead and again, we're gonna blend that back down so that area is a little less noticeably separated. There we go there. A little bit up here to give it a little more shadow. Been building Blade Guard to go with Adrax Agatone. Oh, that's such a good combo. Adrax is such a cool mini. I painted one of those for a friend, and that was the first one I ever tried to do blending on. Before then, I was just doing static colors and washes because that's all I trusted myself with. And I tried to do blending on an Adrax, and it turned out so good. It gave me the confidence to keep trying. So yeah, I'd love to see those. Adrax is probably my favorite non-Imperial Fist loyalist character. He's such a good-looking mini. And again, Kieran, I don't think you've seen that one either. Adrax is a captain for the Salamanders. And the pose on him is good, the decoration on him is good. He's such a badass looking mini. So yeah, if you want to post those Blade Guard, if you want to post the Adrax that you did, I'd love to ogle those minis and like show them off on camera. Okay. Get a little bit better coverage here. Yo, just looked him up. That's a powerful pose. Isn't it, though? It's such a great mini. Unfortunately, he's not super powerful on the tabletop right now, but he's such a cool mini. Who cares, right? That's been one of my guiding lights. Is just like, I don't care how good they are. I just want to play with cool toys. Okay, so I think I accidentally finished... Oh, nope, I missed this part. About to say, I think I accidentally finished all the core green on this guy. So I was going to move on, but clearly I didn't. Yeah, and Kieran, the models, I don't know if you've seen them in comparison, but the models are definitely a little bigger than they used to be. They've moved to a slightly larger scale, or at least made them more proportionate. He's not even on screen. Okay, so here's the army shot. Oh boy, I'm excited from Discord. Let's see what you got. Oh my goodness, look at those guys. Oh, that's so good. Oh man, that's so freaking cool. Oh, look at these guys. Look at them. The Dragon Flares, what an awesome name. Oh my goodness, that's such a cool army. I'm gonna zoom in. You got your chaplain right there. You got your Phobos captain. You got your the apothecary. You got your Super Mario Kart there. You got 2 of them. Oh dear. And they got the Meltas. Gosh, that Dreadnought looks so good. There's some of your Blade Guard. I was about to say, is that a Devastator squad? Yeah, you got a Devastator squad next to an Eradicator squad. And you got a drop pod. That's a model that I don't have that I have a strong desire for. And yeah, I love the transition that you've got on the Impulsor too. And that white stripe just looks so clean. The white was a super good choice, dude. It's so good. I see you've got a Blade Guard Ancient in the back. I think he's now just considered an Ancient, isn't he? Look at these guys. You got your, is this one? Yeah, this one's a Repulsor, right? That's a Repulsor, because I have a Repulsor Executioner. Yeah, geez, that blending on there is just chef's kiss, man. That's phenomenal. On the white for the shadows you got going on. That's a great looking army. Oh, that's so cool. Close, Gladiator Lancer, thank you. Yeah, no, when I got married, bless my wife, she's a wonderful, wonderful person. She really, really wanted to buy me a Mortarion for the wedding, but unfortunately it was sold out everywhere she went. And she also knew that I liked the Repulsor Executioner because I was enamored with the big fuck off turret. Hey D6 Painting, how's it going? How's it going? Also, there should have been some signal that there was a raid. I have a whole bunch of alerts, but none of them are working, I guess. That's okay. I'll figure it out later. Oh my goodness. I've got so many people here. Thank you guys for showing up. But anyway, she was trying to get Mortarion and was unable to find him. But she knew I liked the Repulsor Executioner because I was enamored with the big fuck off cannon on that thing. And so for the wedding, that's what she got me, is a Repulsor Executioner. And now that thing sits proudly on my shelf, and I need to play it in an army. So D6 Painting, did you come from your own stream? I don't know what's going on half the time, and I probably missed it. But if so, what were you working on? I'm Ben Repaints. I'm a small-time painter who's just trying to, you know, spread the word that painting is super cool and super chill, and people should get a lot of enjoyment out of it. And of course, give any kind of, like, nope, no streaming tonight? Well, that's cool. Can't stream every night, right? I actually wasn't going to because I was supposed to play Warhammer with a friend, but unfortunately, he was just too darn exhausted from the day and told me that he's going to have to do a rain check. Just chilling and supporting? Well, I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, I'm just a little guy who's just trying his best. Eventually, I want to upgrade my setup a lot, though. There's another streamer named Doigan Swift who created an entire world, an entire game in Unity, and they have these little avatars that they made that they control with like a video game controller, and they can run around and they can interact with the crowd and they can do a whole bunch of fun stuff. And so I kind of fell in love with that idea, and that's why I have a little 3D frogman. Is because I built the model in Blender, and then I remembered that I don't have the time to learn Unity. Oh, the Executioner, here we go. Let's see that. I love the Repulsor Executioner. The Repulsor Executioner is the tank that says, you see that thing over there, Private? Yes, sir. Well, I don't want to. Yes, sir. Man, that's such a good mini. And of course, the paint job is just so incredibly on point. Look at that thing. It's beautiful. I'm not a huge fan of the grav tanks, but this thing just has too many guns for me to take seriously. I love it so much. It fits right in with that Warhammer aesthetic. And of course, again, the paint job is just absolutely gorgeous. I love the orange and green cross, and the fact that you got the white on there so smooth just hurts me inside because it's beautiful. That's so freaking neato. I painted my Repulsor Executioner before I had a real clue of what I was doing, so to give you an idea of how much I bumbled the job up, the actual main tank turret is upside down. And I'm a little embarrassed about that, but it's not something you really notice unless you really know the Mini, or you take a real close look at it. You can see the bladed sight on the bottom. But you know, it is what it is. I've actually never gotten to play it in a game, and at some point I will. And at some point, I'm either going to delete something, or he's going to greatly disappoint me. Either way, it's going to be a good time. And actually, I recently got myself a Vindicator, which was another model that I was super obsessed with, because again, it was a bulldozer with a tank turret on it. How could you not like that? And I got to play him in a game, and watching him do like 18 wounds was too much. It was such a good time. Okay. So yeah, right now I'm working on some Death Shroud Bodyguard that I'm trying to paint in a high contrast style, similar to what I found on YouTube via an artist named Philon Miniatures. And it's been a lot of trial and error in trying to figure out what kind of brightness I want, what kind of reflections I want. But this is now the 4th guy I've done in this style. 5th guy, technically? And I'm really kind of honing in on trying to make him look as good as possible, make his blends look as good as possible, trying to make the light on him look as good as possible. But for me, this is kind of a huge challenge because I've never done this with a Mini. And actually, I've done a couple more. I've shown them already on stream, but again, painting in general is just experimenting with color. Yeah, I know, right? As someone who didn't have an artistic bone in his body until he started trying to do this stuff, this has all been a huge experience for me. This is the Typhus that I showed off earlier. And this was Death Shroud Bodyguard 1. And so they're going to... Hey, Snow Twig, how's it going? How are you doing? These two guys were kind of the template. And now I'm working on this guy. Though actually, Snowtwig, since you're here, you're going to get a little bit of a preview of Community Day. Thank you, appreciate it. I was very proud of how they turned out, because it's by far the most ambitious thing I've done in terms of just skill level. If Kieran is still here, he's going to get a sneak peek too, because I did Mortarion back when I first got Mortarion, when I first started painting the Death Guard, and he ended up being very dark, which worked real nicely for the grimdark look I was going for. But, you know, now that I've learned about this style, I've kind of wanted to do more with it, right? I've wanted to make more of my important characters have this so they really stand out. Because the rest of my Death Guard do keep a fairly grimdark style. And so I repainted Mortarion's armor and his brass trim. And I did a little bit on the cloak, which I think I'm going to redo even more. But, let me see if I can find it. I set him up for Community Day with Doigan Swift. And so they're going to get to see him too. But, let me see, is this the picture? Yeah, that's the picture I want. That's a good picture. This is what Mortarion is going to look like, or what he's starting to look like for me. That is my Mortarion. And so I'm very excited to continue working on him and continue improving him. I want to redo the wings. I want to redo the spiritually blue part that's spilling off of the wings. I want to redo the Nurglings and the attendants. Yeah, I didn't touch this up at all in Photoshop. I didn't change any of the contrast settings. That's just how the model looks. And I love that he's got kind of that luminescent glow going on. So I was really proud of how that model turned out, in terms of the painting bits. So he's going to lead the army, and I might actually be able to play a game with the Death Guard, which is something I didn't get to do very often before I sold it. Yeah, so I think I sent the light version of that to Doig and Swift because I had both. I took pictures of it both in the light and in the dark. And is this it? Yeah, and so I sent that one to him. The little guys are what are called Nurglings. Mortarion is a demon prince of the god of Rot and Nurgle, and to his most favored, he gives them little demonic imps that are called Nurglings to show that they have Nurgle's favor. And I don't think they do much other than be a nuisance and also just be there as a symbol of the authority that's been bestowed upon those specific agents of Nurgle. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on there. And I think for Community Day, no, I think I took new pictures for Community Day because I wanted to show the scale. Because I do show a lot of those mini paints, but I don't have much to go by with them. So every time Doig and Swift see them, they're like, oh yeah, they're really tiny. But they don't really get kind of a scale to go off. So, where'd it go? 24 February, there it is. So I took some pictures of them next to like a D&D mini and next to yeah, there we go, that's the one I'm looking for. Give me a second, this is the one I want. So that's the size of Mortarion next to a D20 and a D&D human monk. This is my most recently finished model. I'm really trying to push myself this year instead of getting stuff ready for tournaments. That's something I want to do, so I'm really envious of the fact that you've gone to tournaments. But at the same time, I don't know if like mentally I can, you know, keep up with tournaments. Because there's so much to do there. What do you got? Oh, look at that Shadow Sun. Oh my god, look at that Shadow Sun. Oh, that looks so good. One moment, let me pop that back in there. Yeah, those ones are really, like, Mortarion's huge. Look at that Shadow Sun. Oh my god. That's so cool. I love the color choice there. Man, that's a good looking model. I love the red against, like, the khaki orange you've got going on. He did a great job with the face, too. Eyes are impossible, but the markings are on. Everything about that looks so darn good. What an awesome looking model. Very cool. Gosh, so you've got a Tau army you're working on too? I ended up selling mine because I realized I'd never played it and I just wasn't having fun when I tried to, and I really didn't want to repaint it because I wasn't too happy with how it looked. So I ended up selling it to someone else who wanted it. I kept a couple of models and that were like really important to me. And I think I'm going to repaint them, is what my idea is going to be. But beyond that, I no longer have a Tau army to call my own. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and do some wet blending down here. I'm sorry guys that I keep listing over to the left. I think it's because in my previous setup, everything was kind of left biased. And so I would just kind of drift that way. It might also just be that the mic's over there. I'm trying to speak into the mic. What time is 6:43? Okay, no, we're good. We're good on time. I want to paint big models, but I'm afraid to because you want to do a good job, and I'm mostly a beginner with painting. Well, the only way to get better is to do it. One of my favorite things about big models is that because of their size, a lot more like natural lighting and contours happened. And so you don't have to worry about the details looking off. You know what I mean? I end up rushing with my Marines for events, but after painting this, I want to spend more time finishing models and enjoying the process as my Marines are not yet finished. That's completely understandable. That became my thing. Up until I decided I wanted to get better, I would speed paint and batch paint everything. And so I'd have this just ridiculous number of units, for me, in the hobby at least, that I wouldn't use, and they would just sit there in a drawer collecting dust, and I would feel increasingly guilty that I wasn't doing anything with them, and I couldn't do anything else with them. So I started taking them apart and stripping them in like IPA and repainting them, or just adding more details to them. And honestly, I say this a lot, but one of my favorite things about the hobby is just that if you end up not liking your paint job, just paint over it. Do it again. That's been my most recent mantra, is going back over some of the models that I wanted to keep, but also wanted to repaint. And that's really helped me a lot with enjoying things that I have and like getting new life into them, right? Like I've painted the character Torgaradon, I think at least 4 times now, because I keep looking back at my paint job and thinking I can do better. And so I've completely stripped him down and painted him. Though I'll be complete. So the Shadow Sun was the giveaway prize for a follower during my birthday, and it was the first time you'd ever done a model giveaway. Still figuring out this stream malarkey. Yeah, that's absolutely fair. I've had to take a leave of absence because of some health related issues, and so I'm trying to rebuild kind of first of all my consistency, second of all my stream base, and I haven't really done much community outreach outside of creating a Discord for people to show off their minis and know when I'm streaming. Beyond that, I haven't done much. I haven't had the time or the money. I'd love to do something like a stream giveaway, but that would require me having money to buy the mini and then give it away. So kudos to you for getting that far. You're already ahead of me. Like, honestly, I was inspired by Doig and Swift to start streaming because they constantly talked about, you know, do something you want to do. Whether it succeeds or fails, who cares, as long as you have fun with it. And I realized that I really liked painting minis, and I really wanted to be able to talk to people while doing it. And so, between my fastidiousness with the lighting and the microphone and everything that was picked up while I was doing puppet videos with my co-teacher during the pandemic, I just kind of ended up doing this more and more. Okay, so next... Actually, that's probably good right there. Next is going to have to be a little sore on his leggy. We're going to go ahead and hit that right there. Just make that a little bigger. Make that a little more vibrant because we want this to really stand out. So we're going to make that look a little angrier around there. Crashing pretty hard over here, so you'll hop off. Have a great rest of the stream. Have a good evening, man. Thank you for showing up. I appreciate it. Thanks for visiting. Have a good evening, Mr. Kieran. Okay. That's something else, is I've been told that I have a very relaxing voice. My wife, every now and then, she gets too many intrusive thoughts and they give her anxiety, make it hard for her to sleep. And so she'll roll over and just say, "Hey, Benry, tell me a story." And it can be about anything. It can be about Warhammer. It can be about Discworld, which I've become very enamored with. It can be about my Baldur's Gate game. It really doesn't matter which, because apparently just the low bass of my voice is soothing enough for her that it'll eventually put her to sleep. And I don't know if that's a compliment or not, but I'm gonna take it as such. So I apologize if I'm putting anyone to sleep out there. I did just find out last stream that my settings were a little too bassy, and someone commented that I was actually shaking their speakers, their subwoofer, because of it. So when you were younger, you enjoyed going to the hobby shop and hanging out with like-minded people, shared painting tips, and just talk, but after the lockdown, shops stopped letting people in unless you were a new player. So you stream so you can relive hanging out at Games Workshop. That's unfortunate that they're doing that. I've been to a couple of Games Workshops in the area, as I've traveled through the United States for various things, and they seem to be inviting enough. Like, so I'm really sorry that they're less likely to allow you to stay and hang out and talk. Um, yeah, I feel like I'm very lucky because I actually have three local game stores in the area that either sell or promote Warhammer and like the playing and buying of it. So I've got plenty of places to go. That was way too wet. I've got plenty of places to go if I want to play Warhammer. I want to talk about Warhammer. But yeah, I definitely agree with you that the internet, the Twitch stream, all of that stuff has become a really nice way to just chill and talk about, you know, hobby stuff. I don't know, it's just like, you know, in Cheers when everyone would show up at the bar and just kind of be able to talk about their day and hang out. I feel like in some ways, you know, Twitch streaming and this kind of stuff has kind of replaced that. Apparently a bunch of people chatting hobby scares new people away. Yeah, I'd heard that about Games Workshop, is that they very specifically have started to model their stores to be very new person friendly. And that's one of the reasons why they don't discount their product, is because they want to be there as a resource to help new people in, but they also want to discourage established players from playing there. They want to give good discounts to the local game stores to convince established players to go to the local game stores, because people who are deeply invested and know all the terminology and know how to play is kind of an intimidating sight to someone who doesn't. And so they're worried that the sight of that happening can actually, you know, I don't want to say repel people, but discourage people from coming in and checking anything out. And that's why they've really pushed to have friendly store employees who are willing to answer any question. There's still too much of a stigma around the hobby shop nerd, I guess. But like, once they buy their initial stuff and get invested enough in the hobby, then they can go to the local game stores where people are kind of established and start playing with them. And there's also the problem of, I guess, you know, what you call it, office space, store space being more expensive. So Games Workshop probably made the calculated decision to limit store space only to retail space. You know? It makes sense, but it's disheartening from the good old days. I bet. Like, when you would go to a Games Workshop, you were basically going to your friendly local game store, right? And so having that taken away from you really sucks. Because it probably feels like you've lost a pretty important part of your past with that happening. I actually saw something like that recently on the TikTok. On the TikTok. It was a collection of like the last few minutes of a server for an MMORPG before the server shut down. And you know, because even though I was never really a big MMORPG player, I understood that like communities would form there and they'd get their own little subcultures and people would really kind of enjoy being there. And so it had like a series of video clips of the last 30 seconds before a server for those games would shut down. And that stuff was disheartening to watch. It was just really sad seeing these people know that this was like the last time they were going to get to see each other in that specific setting where they had made so many fond memories. So it just kind of makes me wonder what's going to happen when like World of Warcraft shuts down. Though admittedly, World of Warcraft is probably starting to become a very strong part of the dead internet theory. If you know what I mean. So by the time it shuts down, it's probably just going to be a bunch of bots talking to each other. Though that brings up a whole new set of things, doesn't it? Because if it's nothing but a bunch of like chatbots talking to each other, they're not really creating, you know, meaningful emotional connections, but they're still responding to context. And so now you'll just have this society of this little subculture of mindless androids talking to each other as the server for the game dies. That feels like an episode of Black Mirror or something. I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking it. But I could just imagine this incredibly melancholy episode of something where like a bunch of automatons that almost seem human are walking around and having these really weird stilted interactions, and one just kind of noticing that like parts of the world are shutting down and disappearing, and they don't really understand why, so they keep trying to go about their daily business until while they're talking to quote unquote their friend, their friend just disappears, and then they're left just standing there all alone. And of course, they have no emotions to deal with this situation. They have no awareness. So they just kind of stand there until finally the screen turns off. That's why I like live stream. You get that human interaction. Exactly. I mean, I don't really want to call it such, but you kind of start building that parasocial relationship where you have someone to talk to and interact with and discuss things with. And of course, that's ultimately very fulfilling. We are not solitary creatures. At least we're not meant to be. Okay, I think the green... I used a green, light green mix on this guy. I think the green, light green mix is just about gooder. So I think the next thing I want to do with it is go straight to the light green. And then eventually... Hey, Rotten Break, how's it going? Good to see you. How are you doing? I am painting this Death Guard up. He is a Death Shroud Terminator. I'm Ben Repaints. I'm a miniature painter who's just kind of doing this as a hobby. I do take commissions if anyone is interested. They just need to message me on my Instagram. But beyond that, I'm just working on these guys because I have become obsessed with trying to rebuild my Death Guard army. And so I followed this amazing tutorial from a YouTuber named Philon Miniatures to do this Typhus, and he's like a very high contrast, very high saturation Typhus, and I was like, I gotta get a Death Shroud unit to follow him around. And so that's where these guys are coming in. This is the last one I'm working on. I finished the other two, and so I can't wait to be done, so I just have this really cool unit that pops out on the table. Because the rest of my Death Guard army is very much the traditional Grimdark, if you know what I mean. So yeah, what brings you here? What's on your mind? What kind of Warhams do you like? You're gonna start painting for the first time ever. Oh, that is so cool. I definitely did not have the most positive experience first time painting just because of my anxiety, but it created this monster of a hobby that I am now attached to. Black Templar, that's a great army. You're gonna have a lot of fun with those guys. They just recently, in like the last couple years, had a bunch of new units come out, and they are just freaking amazing. So yeah, I hope you have a lot of fun with that. If I can give you just kind of a starter tip, obviously with the Black Templar, they're going to be black, hence the name, but black, unless you really want it to look like that, can be kind of flat. If you just do straight black. You're stuck between them and the Blood Angels. Ooh, that's a good combination of things. And they both got some really cool color schemes. Yeah, I mean, go with your heart. The way I tend to decide disputes like that is I'll flip a coin, and if I don't like the answer, I'll just go ahead and go with the other, but you're choosing from some really cool stock there. I think the Blood Angels are starting to get some new units too. But you can't go wrong with either, man. They're both so cool. It came down to lore. Completely understandable. That's a huge driving part of this game, and it's one of my favorites. It's honestly one of the reasons why I stuck around with it so long. So what about the Black... Whoops, that was way too much. What about the Black Templar lore, like, really drew you to them? And what about the Blood Angel lore really drew you to them? I'm curious. Because, like, neither of those are armies that I would go for, but very clearly, I'm my own person. I'm not you. So, hearing what makes other people love other Space Marines is always a lot of fun. Like, what drew you to these two guys? Right, Rotten Break, I got some advice for you. We'll start somewhere, so take time and enjoy yourself. Oh my goodness, what do you have for me? Too many screws? Boink. Oh, look at those guys. Those are some old tactical Marines. I think one of those, those must be custom chapters. They got the Imperial Fists on the one side. Let's go ahead and show these off. Your first model on the left. Bam! There we go. There we go. Hello, happy St. David's Day to all the Brits according to my calendar. Yeah, okay. I actually don't know what that is because I'm a dirty Yank, but yeah, happy St. David's Day. I guess it is midnight for you guys. Good to see you, MTG Ranger. How's it going? So yeah, Too Many Sprues has posted these guys to give some advice to a new painter. Rotten Break says, like the Black Templar, they're very brutal and they're borderline zealots, and I think they're super wild. Oh, they're not borderline. They're straight zealots. The Black Templars are absolutely nuts. My favorite description of them was during an Adeptus Ridiculous episode. Bricky basically called them the crazy racist uncle at Thanksgiving. And I feel like that's like the most perfect. Also an American. Apparently it's March 1st. I guess I missed the day. Oh yes, it is definitely March 1st. I know because the mortgage was due. And I had the money to pay it, so I did immediately. Being unemployed sucks. But that's okay. I'm in training. I'm looking for a job. It's all going to come up Millhouse. So yeah, what I'm doing right now, I finished the other Death Shroud Bodyguard, and now I'm working on, like, I guess they're the Sergeant for the Death Shroud. And then I'm going to base them all. You're listening to Hell's Reach. Oh, that's such a good book. I've never heard it personally, but I know it's like an iconic piece of Warhammer lore. It's supposedly a really, really good book. So, if I remember right, Jonathan Keeble is the gentleman who did the narration for Hell's Reach, and he gave Helbrecht his, like, infamous rasp, which, if the Emperor had a text-to-speech device, then proceeded to do and imitate and absolutely ruin their throat doing. Yeah, no, he's, you probably don't know this, but Jonathan Keeble is actually an award-winning audiobook reader. He got an award for excellence in his narration for a Paul McCartney biography. Right, you're going to have to head off as it's midnight, but I'll definitely be back. Well, thank you for joining. Thank you for being here, Too Many Sprues. Have a good evening, okay? Thanks for popping by. I appreciate it. So yeah, something that you'll find out about the Black Library is that they do have a very hefty respect for their IP. And so the books are not like literary classics or anything, but they're pretty consistently of high quality. Like, I feel like I can comfortably say that Games Workshop threw you a follow, but I think your alerts are off. Yeah, my alerts are off. I don't know what's going on. This is a newer computer, and I thought I had everything set up right, but apparently I did not. So I appreciate the follow. Have a good evening, buddy. Okay. Let's see, what am I doing here? Oh yeah, I was going to make this really angry to show off all of the ridges to it, because I wasn't sure how to shade the rest of this guy. Okay. So, I don't know if you can really see it because of how... That's way too wet. Because of how bright the lights are. But my whole goal right now is I'm trying to slowly build up volume and brightness across this guy by having increasingly tiny sections of his armor covered with a brighter light. And hopefully, as I start reaching kind of the highlights, your eyes will fill in the rest, and it will actually look like increased brightness on parts of the armor. Because pretty clearly, it's not going to be brighter. It can't be any brighter than light dictates. But if I get this right, if I get this coverage right, he's going to appear in your brain to be brighter. And so that's the general plan with this guy. And I'm at the point right now where I'm getting decreasing amounts of coverage because there's supposed to be highlights on him. And I've mentioned it a couple times on stream, but I will continue to ruthlessly promote the gentleman. A YouTube painter named Philon Miniatures created this tutorial and gave me the confidence to try this. Is this a personal piece? If you mean is it for me, then the answer is yes. This is going in my army. I bought a Death Guard Combat Patrol back when I first started playing, and it made me a fan of the Death Guard. And I eventually sold it because I wanted to repaint every model in the line, but I had done such a bad job on my first one that I didn't feel like I could strip and repaint them. And so I followed these different tutorials I had to try and make them look better for the new ones, and they do. But the one I did for the high contrast Typhus just completely blew me away. And so now I'm working on rebuilding a Death Guard army. Because the one I had been painted by someone else, and they sold it to me because they were getting out of the hobby. And kind of the same thing happened, where I was too anxious to strip and repaint their minis. And they got their minis to like tabletop ready, which is fine and admirable. But it was not to the level of detail that I wanted. And a lot of them just kind of looked bland because of it. So with this guy, and most of the character units, I'm really hoping to make them pop. My buddy just sold like 4 partial armies and got over 1,000 from your local game store. Yeah, I'm not surprised by that. Warhammer minis tend to keep their value really well simply because even though new models come out and become the new hotness, by and large, the armies are still good. It's not like playing Magic the Gathering where, you know, a $300 standard deck is suddenly worth 80 cents because the deck stopped being viable in standard and the cards stopped being legal. Cranium MT, hey, got some questions. Is the spray can of Mechanicus Standard Gray a good primer, and can you use base paint for detailing? Oh, so first of all, welcome. And second of all, I don't know because I don't use Games Workshop primer, but my understanding is yes. The spray cans are perfectly good. The only one I've heard that's no good is White Scar. And that's because their white tends to be really chalky and weird. And secondly, you can use any paint for anything. What they mean when they sell the base paints is that... Actually, let me see, do I still have them? Yeah, give me a second. Yeah, so I put them in dropper bottles, so I apologize for them not being pots. But like, this Averland Sunset is a base paint, right? And what they mean is that the pigment is a lot thicker in there, so that you need less layers to get full coverage. A layer paint is meant to be thinner, so that it's a little more translucent, so you can get better layering through it, right? So if you want to, you can definitely use a base paint for your detailing. You've just got to know that unless you kind of thin it out a little bit, it's going to be really chunky, right? At least in comparison. But to be completely honest, the base layer shade stuff that Games Workshop came up with, that's like purely a them thing. Most paint lines don't follow that line of thought. So I use a company called Vallejo, and I have like Vallejo model color golden olive, right? And right now, with this guy who I'm painting, he originally had Vallejo model color flat green on him, which is, I guess, technically a base paint. And then I'm doing my detail work with this golden olive, right? Which is also a base paint, technically. But because of how I'm thinning it down, because of how I'm applying it on the brush, you can clearly see that I'm getting some really nice highlights out of that, right? And so it's all just a matter of your technique. As long as you don't put it on too thick, and you water it down enough, or thin it out enough, it'll be perfectly fine for detailing. I hope that answered your question, even if it was a bit wordy. Because unfortunately, former school teacher, I will ramble. You're very welcome. I hope that it turns out awesome. If it does, you'll have to show back up and show us what it looks like. Because this is what it's all about, is getting to see cool models painted by cool people, right? Thank you. Okay, I forgot where I was because I stopped thinking about my own model. Oh no, I think I'm doing the right thing. I did the tummy. Yeah, I did the tummy. I did, like, this part right here. I'm working on the arms now. So yeah, I'm kind of going, like, obscenely above and beyond what would be considered, you know, ready to play. I've fallen into the hole of really wanting my army to be, or like my models to be pretty and display worthy and all that stuff. So I'm putting a considerable amount more detail into this paint job than anyone really needs to. Your buddy's going hardcore into the Dark Angels. Well, kudos to them, because their new line is fantastic. Like, their new Terminator models are just eye-watering. And then they've got, you know, the Primarch, who I'm hoping one day to be able to paint. Oh yeah, have you not seen their new models? Well, first of all, up until this recent edition, by and large, the Terminator models were kind of dopey looking, because they were based on the old scale. Okay, so, give me a second. Let me find some references. Take that. Yeah, that'll work. Terminator 40K models. Yeah, they very recently updated the Terminator line and made them look really, really good, because in terms of, like, model size and proportions, they were way off. Compared to the new stuff. So, here, Reddit, whatever, fine. Reddit is fine. It's fine. So, I don't know if you know what Terminators are, but they're like the heavily armored, hippo-faced looking infantry. And this was their old model. This is what a Terminator model used to look like, which was perfectly fine. But unfortunately, compared to the size of, like, the new Primaris soldiers and the new, more accurate scaled game pieces that were coming out, the Terminator model looked kind of silly. And so with 10th edition, they kind of look back to their past and they re-release the models in a new scale, which now looks like this, right? And so you can see everything's a lot better proportioned. It all looks really good. And what came out of that is, obviously fans loved it because Terminators are an iconic part of 40K, but the Dark Angels just recently got a range refresh with their Terminators. So, actually, I think I just... Give me a second. Help. Where, oh, man. Okay. No, this is not working. So what I need to do is go back to warhammer.com. Shop. Do that. Spec Marines. Dark Angels. Boom. Right there. Is that the old one or is that the new one? Yeah. Okay. So here's an example, actually. Here's the old Deathwing Terminator squad. This is what the model used to look like. I wish I could move the frame around, but I can't. And you can see they look kind of squat and chunky, right? Their proportions are very, you know, very simian-like. They got huge arms. They got skinny little legs. They look fine. Don't get me wrong. But they look more like game pieces and less like little statues, right? This is the new Deathwing squad. These are Deathwing Knights that were just released. And you can see that their proportions are a whole lot better. They're actually a physically taller model. There's a lot more going on with them. It was a line that needed a decent refresh, so I'm really glad that they got one. Because up until I saw those models, I was like, why do people like the Dark Angels so much? They look doofy. And then I saw those models and went, oh, that's why they like the Dark Angels so much. So yeah, I'm extremely pleased that they got such an awesome range refresh. But yeah, that's kind of a running thing in 40K, is that because of just the sheer volume of models, they can begin to look outdated and kind of wonky. And then you've just got to wait for Games Workshop to release a new set of them. Oh no, I lost camera, and then I gained camera back? I guess so. So yeah, that's just how it is with Games Workshop. They just recently did a small refresh on the Eldar lots. to try and bring them back into the new millennium, because some of them are over 30 years old. It's just a big part of... Yeah, it did... Oh, it froze again. Uh-oh. I think that means it's time for me to go. Yeah, everything's back. But I think that means it's time for me to go. Obviously, my phone has decided that it needs to be done, because that's what I've been using as a camera. So I'm going to go ahead and set up a raid. Thank you guys for coming in. Oh my gosh, it's 7:15. I need to eat dinner. So yeah, I'm going to go do that. But I'm going to go ahead and set up a raid for you guys. Let me see, who do we have is online? Oh, Isidore's online. He's playing Minecraft right now, but I'm going to go ahead and send you over to Isidore, and you guys can... Oh, no problem whatsoever. I love helping people. It's a huge part of why I started this channel, is to give out advice as best I could. Thank you, appreciate it. I think that's correct. Yep, okay, so we're going to go watch him play Minecraft. This channel is intended for mature audience. He's playing Minecraft! Oh well, I don't know what's going on. So, we're going to go ahead and do that. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. I will see you guys later, and bye-bye!